It's kind of been a frustration for us.
Okay, I
So
just that
Now it says recording. Yes.
and I will
Jen,
update these slides to make sure the dates are correct and share that with you, Jen.
Thank you. Yeah. Who's calling out?
that was Maria.
Uh-huh.
And I just have a quick question for Lori. So in terms of who needs to be the PI, can it be sort of a collaborative group, and can the PI be a non-extension person, yeah, or organization?
Yes, the project director, it can be collaborative effort. Project director does not have to be university affiliated, can be a nonprofit. There are certain guidelines that have to be met, but yes.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions for Lori? All right, thank you. And again, I apologize, Lori, that your portion has not been recorded, but I think if we attach your slides right along with it, hopefully folks can figure out what the intent was and follow up with you for any questions. We're going to go ahead and Maria, since you just spoke, I think we're going to kick it over to you and Kimmy right now, since I don't think Christy has been able to join us yet. So if you're ready, we'll go ahead and switch gears and talk about the living great in the first state.
So awesome, thank you. So Kimmy and I are here to share a little bit about an initiative that really has come from not just the family and consumer science arena, but also the 4-H and some ag folks who have felt like we need another avenue to try to connect with audiences. And so as we brainstormed about what we might do together, we came up with this notion of living great in the first state as a blog opportunity. And the real purpose of this is to bring Delawareans information about how to live their healthiest, happiest life, right? And that, we would come together as staff to provide what we always do, research-based information on relevant topics that really touch people personally, and providing some of the latest information around nutrition, health, food safety, personal finance, horticulture, agriculture, and anything else that really can affect our well-being. And so we've been working with Christy Mannering to set up a blog web page, and so that's the URL. It is accessible, but it's not like totally live yet, in that we want to kind of preload it with some topics and some articles. And so we want to let everybody know that this is kind of an opportunity. And so, I'll just say this is our front page. This is what the front page of the blog site looks like. And then as you scroll down, what you'll see is what is on the left-hand side of the screen here. And so you can see that there are 5 categories. And the out and about section is kind of a cool little catch-all sort of section that speaks to, what we and or our volunteers are doing out and about across the state. It's an opportunity for us to showcase volunteers. For example, if a master food educator has done a really cool program and we want to let people know about that resource and the outcome of that resource, we can put that kind of information there. It can also be a place where we might highlight some upcoming events, right? And then the rest of the topics, as you can see, food and nutrition, health and wellness, gardening in your environment, and money, really can focus on those topics from really from any perspective. And by that I mean, there are There may be some agricultural educators who have some thoughts about how working in the environment or say gardening is really can be connected to health and wellness, or producing your own food can really contribute to the food and nutrition area, or how to pick the best watermelon, right? To me, that's about money management too, like, because you don't want to waste $5 on a watermelon if you don't know how to pick the best watermelon. So there are some opportunities for really all of us to connect into these topics. And so this is a little bit more about kind of the description that is on the web page, so people can really get a sense of what each of those topics are, and it can also help guide you as potential authors to figure out where your piece kind of fits in. And so as we brainstormed, we kind of had to narrow things down to those 5 topic areas, but we're really hoping to help Delawareans understand the breadth of extension, and but also how kind of all of our work really connects in to keeping them well, right? To keeping them happy and healthy and well. And so helping people understand the contributions that agriculture and natural resources has to keeping people happy and well, or how to access our environments in a way that can improve their health, is an important piece of this as well. And I think I'm focusing on that because I think many of the family and consumer science and some of our healthy living 4-H educators really kind of, they get the connection to the blog, and I want to be sure that folks really understand that there's a connection for you somewhere in this. We're trying to make this as inclusive as possible. And so thinking about youth development, but also across the life cycle, right? And so thinking about what are some of the topic areas that can impact people across the life cycle, and trying to connect with different audiences that way too. So I'm going to turn it over to Kimmy, who's going to talk a little bit about kind of the guidelines around writing for the blog.
Sure. So for the actual writing portion of it, we did a quick search and found what successful blogs were doing as far as the length of their articles and the titles of their articles, to really make sure that if we're putting all this work into it, we're going to get people to read it. And so a big thing with that is that we have all these newsletters and fact sheets, but these articles should be a little more than just those facts and research. That's definitely a great part of it, but the blog is going to be an opportunity to add that personal touch, to let people kind of see a little bit more of our personalities, of who we are, and get that connection to us. So that's going to be a neat aspect of it. We really want the content to be linked to positive steps or strategies, and then that are actually Delaware, that local Delaware link as well. And it should all be linked to a positive, healthy lifestyle. But as Maria said, that can really look like a lot of different things. It can be on, again, personal, family, or community level. So it doesn't have to just be a one-on-one type of thing. For titles, we found that really to grab people in, that 6 words or less is the best way to do that. So try to really follow that and make your title brief and engaging. The content should be less than 1,000 words, and so that should be able to be read in less than 6 minutes. And that's important, again, as we all know, everybody wants to read quickly and move on, and so that's a good guideline to follow, that we found really a lot of successful blogs are doing that. We want your name at the end of the article. And then we've also, on the next slide, or in the next few slides, you'll see that we all have a little picture with a little brief caption underneath to introduce ourselves, so then the readers can actually see who it is that wrote this article and get a connection that way as well. So, and again, these are a little bit more than just writing. So it's great to include things like polls, photographs, quick photographs of you out doing things, photographs of actual programs, stuff like that. Links to extension and extension resources encouraged. So you can always, so if you're out in your garden and you take a picture of something that you think is interesting out there, you can then write up something and then link it to a program that's coming up, or a master gardener training, or something along those lines, to a fact sheet. And so another really neat thing is that videos can be embedded in there. And so you can embed a quick video about, or you could have a recipe embedded in. So lots of things that you can do with this. And so then a couple more things. So we do want to make sure, as always, that our information is reviewed before it's posted. So we want it to look professional, so spelling, grammar. And so that will be checked by your support staff person. So you should have references in there, because again, we do want to make this research-based. Hyperlinking it if it's an article. That way people can very quickly find that reference. And again, if it's content-based, if you could have a colleague review it beforehand, that's a great option to do as well, a great thing to do as well.
So just in the short term, right, as we're sort of starting up, Dina Yokimkas out of the Newcastle County office, or Christy Mannering, can help get things posted into the right content area section. But, and especially for those who may be writing only periodically, that may be a way that you want to connect in to this. But if you're really wanting to get involved, eventually we'll give you access so that you can really post whenever you need to post. And also, like other blog situations, we can actually set a date when the item is actually posted. So if you sit down and you crank out 6 articles, you can actually, for each of those articles, put a date when the article will be posted. So there is some flexibility there in terms of interacting and timing of the articles.
So eventually, right now, we do have that little hyperlink that Maria shared at the beginning, but eventually, once we have some more articles embedded into that blog, we do want to have it on the front page of our extension website, so really easy access for people. These blog posts, they don't have to only be posted in our blog, so they can go into newsletters or it's a different format. But we also want to point people back to that blog. So we really want to keep that blog as the central place of all of these things. But you can have people sign up to get the blog articles via Constant Contact or Facebook. And again, it's suggested that you capture these names and email addresses at events. That way we can connect them through those avenues. And that's, again, going to be the Dina that's going to be the contact for that. So like I mentioned a little bit ago, we do want to have pictures to link people back to. So these are a couple examples of some bloggers that are going to be involved in blogging. And so a picture, name, your title, and then very brief bio. If you go to that link at the beginning, you will see that there is some bios already linked to people. So if you need a little help figuring out exactly the kind of thing you would want to write, check back there for some details. And the articles can be sorted by author. So if there's a person that you work with a lot that's really interested in the sort of work that you do and the topics that you would discuss, they can just click on you and read all of the articles you wrote. So that's going to be a really neat factor of this as well. So how to get involved? Really, we want to start getting this marketed so that more people can, so that we can get people to start reading this. We are getting some articles put up now. So when you go out to events, when you have a program, have a health fair, get people to sign up. And again, we can get them their email addresses and their name and get them signed up Constant Contact or Facebook. Join the blogging team. So I have a Google Doc that I've created. Shoot me an email and I can share that with you. And if you need any more details about that or have any questions, let me know. So when you get on there, you'll see that it's split by weeks. So you can sign up for a few, or you can sign up for one every month. It's whatever works for you. If you don't want to commit to a whole bunch at one time, that's fine, and just want to kind of test the waters, completely fine. And you don't have to write under the same topic area each time. So feel free to really test some different things. If you do want to start writing, make sure you send your photo and that 2-line bio to Christy Mannering. And if you want to,
if you don't already have access to kind of the like behind the scenes of our extension web pages, then we need to work on getting you access to that so that as a writer, you can then eventually post right directly to the blog.
okay, so there's my email. Again, shoot me an email with any questions or to get that Google Doc shared with you. And we're open for questions now as well.
All right, questions for Kimmy and Maria. I think this is really neat, guys. You probably said it, and I just didn't grab on, but how many blog articles do you want, like per week or over the course of a period of time?
So how many blog articles per week? Is that what you asked? Or
yeah,
how often?
You have a goal. Yeah, I mean, how often do you want to put new content up?
I would love to have something new at least once a week.
Mm-hmm.
There is some research that kind of says, 3 or 4 a week would be great, but I think a good goal right now would be once a week. And I think the Google Doc that Kimmy has put together is really by week, and so you'll see a little chart that's sort of by week and by title. And so, sure, we could share the screen. She's got it.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see what that looks like.
So this is what this looks like. So you could kind of just go in, right, and pick your week and put your name next in the right column around what topic area you might be interested in writing in. And I think this is a great way to kind of get us organized around this. Now, if you have an event coming up, for example, and someone else has already written that week, I think it's okay to post 2. That's fine. We do think it's going to take a little time. Like we want, how do I want to say this? We need a little lead time, right? So if your event is going to be the week of October 1st, to try and have the article ready to be posted 2 weeks ahead of time, I think is a good rule of thumb. So especially if you're promoting a specific event, a couple weeks ahead is important to think about.
Right. And so one of the other things that I thought of, remember Dr. Rogers was using that term, like the COPE strategy, create once, publish everywhere. So I think Kimmy had said that, you might take the blog article and put it into a newsletter, but maybe it could go, vice versa too, but you might have to do some editing so it fits that blog,
right.
The characteristics you were looking for, 1,000 characters or less, or what was it, words or less, something like that. So I do see a couple of questions popping up into the chat box for you guys. So, Christy said, imagine if people sign up for an email from the site, they will want to see more than one post as an update. So I think that's where she's saying, more is probably better. And then Sue is asking, can we submit an article that is going up on another extension blog? So that's sort of that COPE strategy. How do you guys feel about that?
I think that's fine. I think one of the things to think about is, the target audience for this is sort of general consumers, right? So you might be writing something for the ag audience or, a more professional audience, but how do you kind of spin it around and make it applicable and interesting and framed as, living great in the first date, right, for general consumers?
So, can you guys hear me? I unmuted myself and now I'm actually talking appropriately.
Yes,
Hi.
Hi. So I write a news journal column once a week. I reuse that column on my own blog. And then I could also submit it to this. They're always on gardening topics. You know, somebody might see that more than once, but I don't know how many people follow my blog. Probably not all that many. I wish more did. So, but, you know, I don't know how you feel about that kind of multiple use.
You know, at this point, I think it's fine. You know, my guess is that no one's going to complain.
Right.
No one's going to say, "Oh, I read this." You know.
But so that actually makes me think of a reporting issue, or not necessarily an issue, but something to consider. Is so you said you're not exactly sure how many people follow your blog, but those are things, and Christy can maybe chime in. But hopefully we can get, you know, hits or views, and actually report that at the end of every year. So if you're writing all of, you know, an article every week, can you figure out how many people have been there and then report those as indirect contacts? And so if that same article is going up in multiple places, I guess it may be hard for you to figure that out, but whoever is managing that blog is putting that information in. So it might be different people visiting each blog, but then, yeah, I don't know how you would follow that by article, but that's something for us to think about, and maybe somebody who's kind of more technologically inclined could help us think about that some more.
Yeah. I just want to interject that it's only once a month. It's not every week. So once a month is enough.
Making you really prolific.
Yeah. All right. Okay. I got a good answer. Thank you.
Okay. So Christy, she also thinks it's fine too, 'cause it's 3 different domains. And then, and Tracy agrees that your articles would be great here. So Michelle Walford asked another question about would internet health be a topic? So she's got a really interesting situation, and she puts this kind of stuff on Facebook on her personal page, and I always appreciate that when she points out fake news and you know, just sort of those spoofs and scams. So what are your thoughts on that?
I think so. I think it can certainly be a content area for, you know, for both the money side and good consumer decision making, as well as, you know, depending on what the scam is targeting, right? Could be about, you know, hey, this is happening in your community, right? So there could be some different spots, I'll just say, to locate it within this blog. But I think some of that will be determined by how it's framed and what the title of it, right? What the title of it is. So yeah, I think so. I you know, there's tons of those things happening out there, and I would hope that there's a balance, right, around how we the content of our blog, right? So, but I think that's absolutely appropriate.
Great. So this actually, I think, is a good segue, and you guys might end up feeling you have some of the same challenges as the folks who are often responding to Ask an Expert, is keeping people active and getting that variety of experts and voices. And so that's a good segue for Christy. She's going to give us just a little refresher of, you know, we've got this Ask an Expert system, and really who's in there and what's coming through, and what do we need to make this really be effective for us. So Christy, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thank you, Maria and Kimmy.
Hi, everyone. I really don't have too much to say about Ask an Expert. I think that most of you are familiar with it, but anybody who is new to Extension, Master Gardeners, or as an Extension agent or educator who's not part of Extension.org's Ask an Expert program, it would be really helpful if you could add yourself to that, and I'm happy to send you a link or instructions on how to do that, because we are having trouble finding experts to answer questions, and there's 2 reasons for that. 1, it was the summer and people were away, and 2, there are tags that aren't necessarily let me just say, I've gotten in touch with National Extension on their website several times to ask for them to remedy this situation. But if there's a question about insects and I type in that I want an expert who knows something about insects, but in their expert profile, they said that they only know about an insect or a specific insect, like a spider or whatever, they won't show up as someone who can answer the question for me. Similarly, if you say that you can answer a question about trees and the question's about shrubs, I mean, it's super, super specific down to the word and down to whether it's singular or plural. So I'm typing in all of these tags, just trying to get Delaware's experts to show up so that I can assign the question to them. And then there are 3 people who answered most of the questions. So I don't mean to call out Nancy Gregory if she's on here, but Nancy Gregory is my go-to person. If I can make that question seem like it has something to do with plant health, I'm sending it to her. But that means she's answering like 60 questions a month. And I'm not exaggerating. I was off yesterday. My kids had off. I came into the office and I have 6 new questions to assign experts to. So we get a lot. We get a lot of questions, which is great. And it's good to be able to answer them, link them back to the website, or just let them know, what they can do about whatever problem they're experiencing. It's excellent for Delaware to be there to do that and to know that so many people trust that source. Plus, as Jen has talked about, it is something you can report on, because I can pull reports for each user on what they've done and what they've answered. And in that report, sometimes surveys go out to the people who have asked the question, and they can say whether or not the information was useful. They can say whether or not they're changing a practice because of that information. So it's not just that I get information on how many questions were answered, but I'm getting specific information on whether or not something was changed because of the answer they received. And I feel like that would be really useful for people to know. So I guess this is just my plea to you. If you haven't signed up and you want to, let me know. I will walk you through it. Or you can just go to extension.org, and up in the upper right corner, there is an Ask an Expert link. And we have a student worker working with us 10 hours a week. And because Ask an Expert takes so much time, I have added her to the system to be a question wrangler, because I was the only one in there marked as somebody who could answer right now. Adam left. He had been a question wrangler, and Michelle Walford doesn't have a 28th hour in her day. So I'm trying to handle all that, and Tyler has been added into the mix. She doesn't know most of you, so she's relying on those tags also. And I know we recently had a question that ended up getting sent to North Carolina, and Tracy and Michelle brought it to my attention, and I ended up going in there and changing it, but I think Tyler was just working with what she could see. So it's just really important to sign up and make sure that your tags make sense to us, because half the time I'm Googling just to see, is this a tree? Is this a weed? Is this a flower? I don't know. I'm your web developer, and I would love to make websites for you, but you guys are super, super smart in science and research, and that's just not my forte. So I rely on those tags. Jen?
Thank you. I think that's really great. So you said Nancy gets assigned 60 questions a month. How many do we get total if she's one of the 3 go-to people?
So Brian Kunkel's another one, because she's plant, he's insect, and we get a lot of lawn and garden ones. So I send a lot to Sue. There's a master gardener also named Sue or Susan, and she answers a lot too. So the reason Nancy gets more than everybody else is because she has marked herself an expert for more than one state. So Delaware's sending her a lot, but she's also answering for other mid-Atlantic states.
Okay.
And that's true for other people as well. But for example, if somebody asks me a question about corn, I have no idea who in the system to send it to, because there's just no one who shows up with that. I've sent questions to Dan Severson when they're about animals, but I don't even know if he knows, I don't know if that's who I should be sending it to. So
Right. And well, I probably would say it probably depends on the type of animal, but
Right.
I would be pretty comfortable with most of those. Um, then are any of our county agents in there? Because they would be, you know, kind of the corn experts. So Dan, it sounds like he is, but maybe that's something we need to go and like reach out to Philip and Corey and see if they're in the system. And I know they have super busy, hectic schedules.
Right.
So one of the things that we try to have as a rule is responding within 48 hours, right? 2 business days.
And that's not necessarily happening. And I get it. I mean, the question gets assigned via an email. If you're not on your email, you're not going to see it.
Right.
If you do get on your email and you have 50 emails, that's probably low on your priority list. There have been times when I've left my office here and gone and found Jake Bowman and said, could you tell me what this bird is doing? Because I don't know how to answer this question.
Yeah, and then I don't know that we have folks who are really bird experts. And so,
Right,
yeah, I guess
no.
we get all sorts of questions that maybe are not necessarily within our.
Right. And then I do send them to Maryland or, you know, University of Maryland or Penn State, whomever I can send it to. But it is not 10 a month, Nancy. I will pull up your report and I will show everyone how many you're doing. But I praise you, Nancy, because you are very thorough. Yeah, yes. So what she's saying in the chat is as accurate. Sometimes people are asking the same question over and over again because I guess they don't like the answer, and I remove them. I close the question. I don't assign it again because it irritates me. So, if you don't like your answer, go ask it somewhere else. You know, the answers, I don't necessarily look at all the answers. There have been times when there's been a bad review that came through a survey because they felt somebody was being snarky. I don't necessarily think anybody is trying to be snarky, but you never know how someone's going to take something that's been written, you know, in an email or a forum setting. So
Now that you mentioned that you get that impact data, I wasn't aware. Now, every person who submits a question is then, when they receive a response, is triggered to follow up and say, was that helpful? Did they use it?
So I'm not sure if everyone gets it. I don't know what in that system triggers the survey, but I have given reports to Dr. Rogers before. There's like the spreadsheet is thousands of items of data. So I try to bring it down into one report. I let her know how often people are submitting, who our top answerers are. Nancy's always the one that I praise the most. And then I also say, you know, on a scale from 1 to 5, they said they changed their practice or whatever it is. And then the number of tags, at plant health and lawn and garden, home gardening. I know Sue Barton gets questions whenever something comes through that's home gardening because she's just the first person that pops in my mind. So I provide that information and I can give it to you as well.
Okay, I didn't realize that was happening, so that was really interesting to.
Yeah.
So I know you actually have a tip sheet, and I think it's on the staff resources page, but that's something we could probably send out in either today's DW or in the future. But it walks people through how to become an expert, setting up your profile, which is really, you know, sounds like we need, you know, if you're not in the system yet and you think you could be responsive and answer questions within that, you know, goal of 48 hours, or 2 business days, right? I mean, do people expect questions over the weekend? I would hope not, because
we get questions. We get questions over the weekend, but I don't check my email okay, so sometimes I check my email over the weekend, but
you might not get assigned until Monday.
I would say business days.
Yeah. So, you know, if you're not in the system now and you can help out with this, I think step A is please get in there and log, sign up as an expert. And everybody who's already in there, probably go in and review your tags and make sure you've got good tags that can help Christy and Michelle Walford, who's back in a Wrangler seat, she says, and Tyler, to be able to assign those questions. And then, you know, as you do get questions, try to be responsive as best as you can. I know I've gotten the reminder email that I've not gotten to the question quite in time. So, and in there too, it says if you're not able to respond, you can try to reassign it or, you know, kind of get it off your back. So I don't think I've ever had to do that, but I guess if you know you just don't have time to sit down and figure out the answer, I think you can kind of push the question back.
You can pass it off. And another thing is that sometimes somebody else somewhere has asked a similar question, and on the right-hand side of every question for us logged in, it will say related answers or related questions. So sometimes the answer is already there.
Okay, that's interesting too.
Yeah.
So, and then finally, I know that there's this other option of setting yourself away. So Michelle had done that while she was doing Lead Delaware.
Right.
And so I guess I've not done this in the past. You know, if I'm going to be going on vacation for 2 weeks, I should try to, you know, make a mental note to go in and, you know, maybe when I'm setting up my out of office response and email, do the same thing for Ask an Expert, so that you guys who probably don't know my personal schedule aren't sending it to me and then it's not getting answered in a timely manner.
Well, that, and it tells me when you last logged in.
Okay.
So if somebody hasn't logged in a year, I'm not going to assign them the question, but I wish they'd get off the system. So I don't mean to be mean. It's just they still come up as experts, and I had been assigning them, and then I'm realizing, oh, you know, they're not in it.
So I know the folks who work with the Master Gardeners are interested in having you come and kind of do a more in-depth, maybe hands-on advanced training. Something I talked about with Carrie was possibly offering that over Zoom with them, and then inviting anyone else who wants to do that, maybe as a lunch and learn. So that's something that, you know, be on the lookout. I think we can try to put that together and help folks. You know, we have the tip sheet, but we can maybe walk through that.
Okay.
People together and spend more time on it. So we gave you about, you know, 10, 15 minutes max today. So.
Okay. And just, I know you need to shut down everything, but just for people who are wondering, this is the national platform. So to sign up for it, it's at extension.org. It's not at right.
All right. So are there any other questions for Christy on Ask an Expert? Not seeing anything in the chat box. You can unmute yourself and ask. We've got 1 minute left before 10 a.m. So doesn't sound like it. I want to say thank you to Christy, Kimmy, Maria, and Lori. Thank you so much. We appreciate you sharing all of your really interesting and excellent projects that you've got going on. I hope everyone has a great weekend, and look for the Directors Weekly and sign up for the annual conference. All right. And if you've got something you want to share, sign up for the Share Fair. All right. Hope everyone has a great day.